What a night in the NBA classics out in the Western Conference. Joel Embiid comes back and they win. And now, is it better to become the third seed in the East than the second? We're talking about it all right now on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On NBA podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Hop in the comment section. Let us know what you think about this show on Wednesdays. It's us. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. I know who I am. You can find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast, on Twitter at NOLA Jake. This was fun tonight.
This was fun tonight. You know, I recently made a trip to New Orleans, Jake. You may not have heard. I'm only just recovering. So that's,
shout out Snake and Jake's Christmas Lounge.
Oh, what a joint that was, man. If you can find it, go to it. But we're not going to tell you where it is, and you're probably not going to be able to figure it out. But anyway. Later on in the third segment, we're going to talk about Denver, San Antonio. Jokic did what? Wemby did what? Or almost did what? Haymakers being thrown between the Mavs and the Warriors. The Western Conference is just a convoluted playoff mess. We'll get all of that later. We're going to get into Joel Embiid, and very Joel Embiid heavy in the first two segments. We're going to play our game of real or fake in segment number 2, but we're going to start off in segment number 1 with, very simply, Joel Embiid is back. He played 29 minutes in his return. He got to the line 12 times, very Embiid-like, 24 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, 6 turnovers. Rusty, but overall, Jake, not a bad return for Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I think that's putting it kind of mildly there, right? Like, he was great in this game. He had one of kind of the game-saving play, the game-sealing steal on Josh Giddey at the very end right there. So I don't know what's more impressive.
Like, hand on the ball, or did Giddey lose it? And he
he gets credit for the steal either way. It's good defending. Look, clearly he scared him.
Good defensive play. Yeah. No, go ahead.
I don't know what's more impressive, like the stat line or the fact that he almost played 30 minutes coming back, right? He hasn't played since January. Like, for a big man like that, and you could see he was very clearly like gassed at the end of this, exhausted, right? Maybe hamming it up a little bit knowing Joel Embiid, but that's fine here. But both of those things were impressive. Also, credit to Nick Nurse for managing his minutes well, to have him out there in the fourth quarter in a close game. Like, I'm sure he has a minutes restriction. It's probably 30 minutes, and they managed it to perfection to get the most out of him. You don't always see something like that, where the worst case scenario was going to be him sitting on the bench late in the fourth quarter because they've used up all the minutes that they wanted to give him. So I don't know, just credit all around. And look, that's a big win for the 76ers.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm not big on messages being sent, but this is one where, and this is why the second segment is going to be what it is, where you say, okay, Embiid is back, and he was winded right away. No doubt about that. No amount of 5-on-5, no amount of whatever you do to get your cardio up, that is not going to get you ready for your first 5 minutes of NBA basketball. Playing basketball is so different than any practice or scrimmage or anything like that. So he was winded. You can tell. And there were times where I was like, I felt like the Thunder should have put him in more actions defensively just to test him a little bit more. And I don't think they did that enough. Probably a product of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander not being active.
And J-Dub too.
And J-Dub was out too. So, credit to the Thunder for, playing tough, right to the end. But obviously without your MVP candidate and your second best player, it's going to be tough. But regardless, Embiid looked rusty for sure, a little short in his shots. I think one thing that plays to Embiid's advantage is the style that he's been playing this whole time, which is he's not attacking the basket a lot. He's always been this season more of a jump shooter. So that style of play, I think, allows him to get back into the mix a little bit more quickly. It's an interesting decision process for the Sixers, playing him 30 minutes in his first game back with that big knee brace on. Okay, you're really towing a line between getting him as playoff ready as you can and really pushing his cardio and trying to figure out, like, okay, they play Miami on Thursday, they play the Grizzlies on Saturday with a back-to-back against the Spurs. So you got a 3-game and 4-night stretch. Where does he fit in there? Do you sit him against Miami and then really go big minutes against the Grizzlies to try to get him playoff ready? I don't know what they're going to do, but they only have, 6 games left to get him into some sort of shape for the playoffs. Right now, my initial look at him is like, yeah, it's a nice return, and he did some good things, but he was also very slow on rotations. He was not his usual self defensively, and that's going to be where the cardio and getting himself back up to speed is going to kick in. So nice debut, but they have a lot of work to do in a short amount of time.
Yeah, they do. I will say I was encouraged by the fact that he got to the line 12 times and made all 12 of those. That's a great way to kind of like ease you back in, I think, to the fold with this team. They were also without Tyrese Maxey in this game too, so they were a little bit shorthanded as well. So for him to kind of be the focal point and carry them as much as they did, especially when you have guys on that team that are kind of underwhelming. Like, I didn't love how Tobias Harris played in this game. I haven't really loved how he's played all season long. You know, they also got a very good performance from Kelly Oubre Jr. It's like one of those things where if some of those guys play at that level, like, you don't need to just kind of throw him right back into the fire, right? Like, Maxey has been a breakout guy, is going to be in the running for an all-NBA team this season. You know, if Kelly Oubre Jr., who had the greatest moment the other day after that weird call and everything at the end, all of the controversy there. Yeah, we watched that a couple times in New Orleans.
And you.
If they can get good performances out of them, that's enough to kind of ease him back into the right way and then maybe try and unleash him a little bit more in the playoffs. And that's ultimately what the goal of this is, right? Get him some reps in the regular season. Who cares whether it's wins or losses or whatever? As long as he's ready for the postseason, that's all that matters to Philly. Look, that's why he came back, right? I'm sure there were people within the Philadelphia 76ers organization saying, like, nah, just wait until next year. Like, don't worry about it, right? We've fallen in the standings. And he probably pushed to come back and play. And he did this pretty quickly. And so it's a pretty impressive thing all around. And look, it makes me not want to play the 76ers if I were a team, right? Like, I think that's worth kind of keeping in mind. We're going to talk about that next.
Yeah, we are. And listen, to your Tobias Harris point, I thought there were stretches in here where, because Embiid was on the floor and he was scary as a defender, you're still facing Embiid, regardless of whether he's 100% or not. I thought that it started to kind of snap Tobias Harris into place a little bit. It's been a long time, but I think that at the beginning of the season, we have to remember that the story was like, oh, Tobias Harris is finding his footing. And then it completely fell off after that. But early on, there was some talk about, oh, Tobias Harris might be figuring something out. I think with Embiid, one of the things that he does defensively, he forces you to take a lot more jumpers. And if you miss those rebounds tend to go long, and that gets you out into transition. And Tobias Harris stepping into transition 3-pointers is actually okay.
He shot the ball well from 3 in this game. Like, they need that from him for sure.
It's the half court stuff. And
weird,
that's why
man.
you need Maxey, and you need everything. If you're Philly, you need everything to play your best. If you don't have one of those elements, you really struggle. So there's promise there. There is promise there. And I think there's even promise for Tobias Harris. If Embiid can get back to some semblance of himself, if you have Maxey, it does give the Sixers an opportunity to play a style where I think Harris could be at least somewhat of a contributor, not a non-entity. So, like you said, does this make the Sixers scary in the first round of the playoffs? We'll talk about that. We'll play real or fake. Is the second seed the worst spot to be in the Eastern Conference top four? We'll talk about that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. If you've got a bunch of cars like Jake Madison and you've got that passion, drive, and patience, you know that's the formula for winning championships, and it's what keeps your ride or die alive. I can tell you, I saw Jake with the sweet classic Corvette when I made that visit, and he lifted up the hood, and I saw new parts. I said, eBay Motors. He said, "Yep, it's because they've got everything you need to maintain your vehicle, to level it up to peak performance, whatever you need. Superchargers, roof racks, all fancy, shiny pieces of an engine that I don't know, but Jake knows." So they've got over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Sports today. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube. It's also on the Amazon Fire TV channels app. Don't go to ESPN or Fox Sports and get the fake yelling. Come to us. We're talking.
We'll really yell. Actually, we're not going to yell at all.
If we're angry, we'll yell. If we disagree, we'll say it. But we're just talking. We're talking hoops. We're talking sports, and they're doing that on Locked On Sports today. And it's like I said, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on Amazon Fire TV. So go check that out. Jake, the Sixers now are the what are they? The 8th seed. Pretty locked in. There's an outside chance that they can climb out of the playoffs or the play-in into the top 6. Kind of unsure of where this is going. Meanwhile, at the top of the East, Boston is Boston. Milwaukee is sitting there in second, waiting for the 7th seed winner. And Cleveland is there in third currently, but a game and a half separate those two. They are going to play whoever finishes 6th. So let's play our regular game here every week, every Wednesday here on the Locked On NBA podcast.
I am telling you right now, it's not real.
Is this real or fake? Just ask John and Jake.
Real or fake? The 2nd seed is the worst place to be at the top of the East. You want to be the 3rd seed because it's looking like the Sixers are going to win that 7-8, and you want to avoid them.
I think this is actually very real. I think you want to avoid the Philadelphia 76ers. Look, there was no J-Dub, no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the Thunder in this game, but that is still a very quality win for the Philadelphia 76ers. And if Joel Embiid is going to do that in his first game back, that would concern me. This was a team that was a bit of a surprise at the beginning of the year with where they were in the Eastern Conference. And this season, when Joel Embiid plays, they have a 27-8 record. That's really good. That's a ridiculously good record. So the top level talent of this team is absolutely there. That's not something you really want to mess with, right? That's a 77 winning percentage. What would that put them at in there? That put them at the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference if they kind of kept up that pace. I want to play that team if I'm the 2nd seed, who in theory, if they were healthy all year, would have a better record than you, right? If you're the Bucks there, that would absolutely concern me, particularly with the Bucks defense not being what it once was. You'd much rather be the 3rd seed and getting an easier matchup, I think, with the Indiana Pacers, who seem like they could end up in there. I don't see them climbing or anything like that. You know, they're down Benedict Mathurin for the remainder of the season. That's a big loss for them off the bench with some of their guys. Yeah, give me Indiana over Philly, even with Joel Embiid working his way back into this.
Here's the reason I'm going to say it's fake, because we don't know. First of all, we don't know what the seeding is going to be. So if you're Milwaukee and you're saying, and Milwaukee lost tonight, they lost to the Washington Wizards. It's one of those, you can say it doesn't matter, whatever. It might hit a little different if you're the Milwaukee Bucks. A loss to the Washington Wizards is embarrassing because they are just the absolute worst. And so here they are, 5-5 in their last 10. Both they and Cleveland have been struggling recently, barely playing 500 basketball. You have to really engineer this, right? So you just have to basically lose out. And number one, you don't want to go down that road. I think it's a little bit difficult to lose the most of the rest of your games. You're the Milwaukee Bucks. You've struggled. You need every opportunity you can get to feel good about your team. So I don't think you intentionally lose. Now you may unintentionally lose anyway, so it might not matter. But so that's number one. You don't know if you get to that. Say you do engineer it and you fall to 3. Well, what if the Miami Heat, they're only a half game and they are on a roll. They've won 3 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They can flip places with the Indiana Pacers and get into that 6 seed. And now you're in the 3-6 game against the Miami Heat, the team that beat you last year and, started their big miracle run in that first round series. Now, Milwaukee was the top seed last year, but regardless, do you want to tempt that fate again? I don't fear Miami. So, but it's just kind of funny that would be the case. So that part to me, there's too many moving parts. For me, if I'm Milwaukee, I'm trying to win. I'm trying to feel good. I want to go into the playoffs on like a 3-4 game winning streak. I want to see the defense somehow, some way click somehow. I know I'm asking a lot in the last few games, but I'm going to say it's fake. And my last point is, if you're going to play the Sixers, play them now, because Embiid is not 100%. He's not going to be at full shape for day one of the playoffs, right? So if you're facing him in day one, then just run your pick and rolls at him all the time, get him super, super tired, and then run away with the game late. So I would say, bring me Philly in the first round. If that's how it goes, bring me Philly and just run them into the ground.
So that's a good point. That's a very good point of you'd rather play him sooner rather than later. And if we're talking about trying to dodge him, it means we think they could win a playoff series. So you're looking at facing them in the second round where he's got a little bit more like wind under his sails for that sort of thing and a little bit more game shape, as we were talking about in the last segment here. So that makes a ton of sense. And look, the Bucks have had a weird season. Giannis is kind of getting into MVP form, but he's not going to be in the running for it at the end of the year. That's a conversation for a different day. But they probably do want to go in with some momentum rather than kind of the up and downness. And they've been significantly better post All-Star break too. But at the same point, yeah, like Doc Rivers probably wants them to have some momentum in here, and that's getting real cute and tempting the basketball gods if you start throwing games now just to dodge a matchup in the first round, but still 76ers are good, right? Well, maybe not good. I don't want to say that. That still worries me, right? Like imagine the fallout. Imagine the fallout if the Bucks as the 2 seed lose to Philly in the first round of the playoffs.
I mean, listen, from a Boston perspective, I'm absolutely rooting for Bucks Sixers in the first round of the playoffs. Like that to me would be so much fun. And however it goes, like there's a no lose situation from Boston's perspective. It's a knockdown, drag out, seven game, slog, and the winner is just sapped for the next round. Or look, Milwaukee takes care of business, and as the 2 seed, they're supposed to take care of business. So if that's what happens, that's what happens, and it's no harm, no foul. But And if Philly wins, like, okay, yeah, sure. Because I know Boston doesn't fear Philadelphia. And I know Philly is extraordinarily afraid of Boston. Like, that's become a thing. The Celtics have the pieces to defend Joel Embiid. And again, he's just never going to be 100% in this playoff run. So I'm sure Boston would love to throw Kristaps Porzingis out there and like, all right, you guys want to go crazy? Let's go crazy. And you defend us and we'll outscore you 125 to 115 or whatever. But that's how they would go. So, but yeah, I think Bucks Sixers in the first round would be both hilarious and awesome.
Give me an upset then. Let's get some chaos in here.
Yeah, lots of chaos. Hey, you want chaos? Let's talk Western Conference because there were some classic games in the West, and once again, not a lot of clarity in the standings. We'll talk about all that next. Today's show is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV, which is your destination for sports. You got live games, highlights, in-depth analysis. Fire TV has amazing viewing experiences with their smart TVs. Do you like the TV that you have? Then just get a Fire TV stick. Plug it into your existing TV. Now you will have access to millions of movies, TV episodes, and free and live TV. So whether it's MLB season just beginning, the NCAA tournament, the women's tournament, which is just amazing, you're going to want to have a Fire TV for all that. Fire TV also recently created Fire TV channels to deliver you a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. And that includes us here in the Locked On Podcast Network. Like we said, that the Locked On Sports Today 24/7, it's right there. So go check out the Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you absolutely should. You should trust me on this one. Learn more by visiting Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. That's Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. West Coast had it all going on Tuesday night. Let's start with the late game. I'm going to start with Warriors Mavs. Let's go there because that was the Warriors have a 10-point lead. Oh, the Mavericks have flipped that, and now they have a 10-point lead. It's 14-2 run. Oh, 10-0 run. It's just back and forth and back and forth. Finally, Draymond Green makes an amazing defensive play, a block shot, saves the play, and then the other end, after a foul, gets the layup, kind of ices the game. This is why, the Warriors keep putting him out there no matter what, no matter how many times he gets ejected or who he punches. It's because he makes plays like that. And when you can make plays like that, you get a ton of chances. And the Warriors have a chance to stay in this play-in tournament. And it's basically guaranteed. It's them. It's going to be the Lakers. Just a matter of jostling for home court in that game. Both teams win. The Lakers won. The Warriors won. And that game against Dallas was a classic. And that one actually helps your team, the New Orleans Pelicans.
Oh, yeah. Look, the bottom of the West is like riveting theater, to be perfectly honest. We talked about it last week on Locked On NBA as well. I think the Warriors are definitely going to get in over the Houston Rockets. This win probably made them completely safe, I think, here, as Houston has now run out of a little bit of steam. This is one of those games watching this, which was just a fantastic late night game where it's like, oh, the next day I've got to go listen to Locked On Mavs. I've got to go listen to Locked On Warriors to kind of make sense of this, right? Dallas had been the hottest team in the entirety of the NBA, but they've had moments like this season where they're really, really good. Then they hit a skid and they don't look so good. They've been just really streaky. Is this a sign of them slowing down, or is this just them going up against, a decent enough team that beat them in their home court? And that's kind of what I want to know about the Warriors too, right? You mentioned the Draymond Green play where he had that block late in the game and then kind of just ripped the ball away to save it and give the Warriors the possession. He makes those plays, man. And look, we're all kind of sick of his antics and everything. But as you said, that's why you keep giving him chances and you keep playing him. And when he makes kind of vintage Draymond Green plays like that, that kind of scares you when you're seeing Klay Thompson hit threes, when you're seeing Steph Curry do his thing. And Steph didn't get a good whistle whatsoever in this game at all. It was just like a phenomenal kind of back and forth game that means maybe both these teams are good, but also maybe not.
I'd say both these teams are good. I think, well, look, Luka is good. He had
It's a relative phrase.
30 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists. We call that a triple-double in the business. He's pretty good. Shot 5 of 11 from 3, 50% overall. Kyrie Irving is good. He 27 points, 4 of 8 from 3, 10 of 19. They played well enough. Made some mistakes, obviously. But look, between them and the Warriors, you know, there's turnovers that's going to be had. It's just a matter that the Warriors just hit more shots, more efficient from 3, and they just made the last couple of plays. I don't think anything in this game is an indictment on either team. The Mavs are still, I think, a pretty good team here that will, if they, depending on how things settle, I think they'll have a good chance at winning that first round series. So, you know, I feel like this loss doesn't mean much to the Mavs. I think Golden State went and took this game, and they don't take a lot of games. The Warriors, that's not a especially at home, which is weird because this win moved them to 500 at home.
Yeah, it's on the Mavs side too. They have one of the easier schedules remaining in the league as well. So I think that kind of probably solidifies them. I would guess is probably the 5th seed is where I see them ending up. New Orleans is the 6th, and then the Clippers as the 4. But they might even make a late push if they keep up the same run of form, depending on the Clippers who have a tougher schedule. You know, they could end up 4 instead of the Clippers. So everything's not going to be settled till the end of the season.
Right. Clippers got bombed by the Sacramento Kings. So you've got Mavs and Pelicans tied. They're 2 games behind the Clippers. The Kings are a game behind those 2 teams, tied with the Suns. So yeah, there's a lot that can change. Who's in the play-in, who's in the playoff, all of that. At the top of the standings, who's going to be the top seed? Denver takes a half-game lead over Minnesota and OKC. OKC lost. Obviously, we talked about that game to Philly. And now OKC goes to Boston on the back-to-back. So that's going to be a tough game, even though they get SGA and J-Dub back. That's going to be a tough game. We'll see how they do there. Could be an opportunity for the Nuggets to take a little bit of control. Nuggets had, you know, a tough time with San Antonio because Victor Wembanyama, despite not shooting great, had nearly a quadruple double. He finished with
it's ridiculous.
Points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists, and 9 blocks. Nikola Jokic finished with 42 points, 16 rebounds, and 6 assists, just in 2 blocks for him and a steal. Just a monster game. It was tied at the end. It was 105-105, and the Nuggets ended up pulling this out. But that game was a demonstration of Jokic is the MVP, and B, all you good teams out there, and I'm talking to the Boston Celtics too, better start winning your championships now because you got a couple years before Wembanyama starts making the San Antonio Spurs a serious threat and starts like taking over the league.
He's 20, and he just went, again, didn't have the best shooting night, but kind of went toe-to-toe with Nikola Jokic, the best player in the world that no one has an answer for whatsoever. Yeah. And at one point, they were just trading buckets. He said after the game, when they mentioned that he almost had a quadruple-double, which only 4 players have since blocks were officially made a stat. So there's 4 official, and that's it, quadruple-doubles here. He said he's like, oh, it'll happen eventually. I've just got other things I'm focusing on right now. Like, this dude just knows he's casually gonna drop a quadruple double, none of which have happened since 1994, by the way. Like, this dude just knows it's gonna come because of how talented he is. And then Jokic, just in MVP form here, like, good luck anyone playing them. You want to be on the other side of them. You know, we talked about trying to dodge teams in the East, right? You want to be on the exact opposite side of the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference playoffs, because you at least just want to see them in the Western Conference finals and not any time before that.
Yeah. You want to have yourself a nice little playoff run before they eliminate you.
I mean, basically, right? Like,
Wembanyama is, I know that they lost and Wemby didn't shoot as well, but that stretch of, Wemby with that big lefty scoop and then coming down and blocking Jokic and then go just that back and forth. Some of the blocks that he gets, he just sits there and kind of has his arms by his side. And it was like Venus flytrap baits you into, I have room. I can take this shot. And he just doesn't, you can jump. He can watch you jump. And then he sticks that huge arm with the hand that's like 3 feet long and he just engulfs you. It's ridiculous to watch. But anyway, this is about the good team that could win a championship and not the Spurs team that will win championships in a few years, but not now. Jokic is amazing. The baseline, full court.
That was incredible.
Corner for a 3. He's just ridiculous. And this
from under, like he was inbounding the ball, right? And just chucks it the
under
whole
his own
court.
basket, throws a dart to the opposite left corner and just basically right on the money.
The audacity to just decide you're going to try and do that, right? Like you know what I'm saying here? Like what that dude has got in him to be like, I can do this and I'm going to do this.
It's not even his best crazy or inbound play, because he had that play last year where he was on the sideline and he threw the full court. There was a full court alley-oop to Aaron Gordon. You remember that play from last year? I mean, that's what he does. It's so stupid. So anyway, Jokic was extraordinarily good. The Denver Nuggets are good. And when you get 23 points out of Aaron Gordon and you get a contribution from Michael Porter Jr., it doesn't matter that Jamal Murray wasn't in this game. You still go out there and you can handle your business, and you get a good challenge from a Spurs team that is not good necessarily, but they continue because of Wembanyama to give teams good challenges. So, and I'd qualify that as a nice win for them.
Yeah. Look, anything they do is just like fun for the Spurs, and good job for the Denver Nuggets for just marching towards what feels like potentially a finals appearance.
So Lakers beat the Raptors. We didn't talk about that, but Lakers beat the Raptors. What else happened in the league? The Miami Heat beat the New York Knicks. New York Knicks, some questions there injury-wise with Anunoby and Randall. That's got to get worked out. So Heat making their case to not be in the play-in still. We talked about the Rockets. They lost to the Timberwolves. They've lost 2 in a row. So that could be, like you said, maybe their chariot string back into a pumpkin. And the Cavaliers beat the Jazz, and that's that 2-3 matchup that we talked about. Locked On has a podcast for all of them. Listen to them if you want more. If you want more Locked On NBA, make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Watch the show on YouTube. Every Wednesday, it's us. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. You find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of Locked On Pelicans. You can find me on Twitter at NolaJake.
Tomorrow, you can hear more on the Mavs, I'm sure, from Nick Angstead. Pat, the designer, have you covered there. Make sure you're sharing the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast here in the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.